What's the difference between a professional organizer and a KonMari consultant? Hello, I'm Katie. I'm a professional organizer and also a certified KonMari consultant. And I'm excited to share more about this in this video. Both KonMari consultants and professional organizers are organizers because they help people organize their belongings. However, they emphasize different results. There can be an overlap, but it depends on the organizer. In a nutshell, these are the differences. First, a professional organizes for you, and a KonMari consultant organizes with you. Second, not all professional organizers declutter. Some of them only organize the belongings, but every KonMari consultant declutters and organizes. Third, a professional organizer has a very practical approach, very logical. And a KonMari consultant is more emotional. They ask more, how do you feel about something before they go into the practical things. For me personally, it worked well that I am a professional organizer and a certified KonMari consultant, so I can use the two skill sets to help my clients in the best way, so I can adapt very easily to their needs and to their situations. Now let's go even deeper. Why does someone hire a professional organizer, and why does somebody hire a KonMari consultant? So what's the exact difference? The person who hires a professional organizer is looking for the result of an organized home. They want that it looks very neat and organized, and there are systems in place that help their everyday life functioning better. An example could be that they have a closet that they don't really like. And it's not just that they don't like the clothes in it and how they're organized, they don't like the whole closet as a system. And so a professional organizer can plan and design a whole closet and then order it and assemble it, or have a contractor to help them build it. And then after the whole system is in, then the organizer will put the clothes back and the shoes back and organize everything neatly. So the person who hires a KonMari consultant, they of course also want to have an organized home. However, they are looking for somebody who's helping them to declutter before. So in the KonMari method, it's called like a tidying festival. This means you go with the consultant through all of your belongings and see if they still spark joy or not. That's called like joy checking. And then you will go through all of that, and that takes usually the longest time. And then in the end, with everything that's left over, then you will organize it. The KonMari consultant is also a teacher and a coach. And in my situation, because my background is being a pastor, so I did a lot of counseling work. My clients are telling me a lot of personal stories. It's a mixture of counseling them, but also being very practical and finding out what sparks joy and what does not spark joy. And that sets me apart from like just a professional organizer, just because my background is even more complex. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of the KonMari method are that the client is going to learn new skills. And through the whole process, they are also learning probably new habits and new routines. And because it's a while, it's not just like 1 hour, it's like many hours and maybe even weeks or months for the whole process. So the person will change themselves. They will really strengthen their decision-making muscle to make the decisions. Does it spark joy? Does it not spark joy? Where do I want to give it if I don't want to keep it? And all of those things. So bit by bit, they will get stronger and stronger. So in the end, they will be a KonMari tidying ninja. And usually the KonMari consultant does not have to come back in the future because the client learned all of the skills and new habits, and they can do it by themselves. Now to the disadvantage to working with a KonMari consultant. The thing is, because the KonMari consultant works with the client, it just takes longer. Because you have to talk a lot about all of the different things, and it just takes time. Right? Maybe you know in your life, when you teach something to somebody else, it takes way longer than when you just do it yourself. And that's the same thing. Teaching takes time, and also you need a committed client to follow through, because the client says what the speed is. Because if the client needs longer to make decisions, the process will be slower. Also, the client has to be kind of pushed a little bit out of their comfort zone because they have to learn new things, new skills, new habits, and that can be very uncomfortable. Also, with all of the talking and the listening, not every client feels comfortable sharing so much about their life. Maybe they don't want to tell a stranger all the stories from the items they own. Maybe they would talk with their therapist about it, but not with a consultant. Now let's talk about the advantages of a professional organizer. So a professional organizer usually is doing the work for the client. At the beginning, the professional organizer, of course, will talk with the client to know what the goal is and everything, but then usually the professional organizer will stay alone in the space and organize everything. So for somebody who has a very demanding job and they don't have a lot of time and also head space for doing all of this decision making, it's really helpful if the professional organizer is doing the work and then the client comes home and everything looks neat and tidy. That can be a really big support. Another advantage of the professional organizer is that they usually are really good in finding systems, defining how a space can work the most efficiently, and navigating, for example, the container store. When I work with my clients and we did the decluttering and then we're in the organizational part, then I always bring my measuring tape and then I measure everything, write everything down, and start thinking about, oh, this bin could be good here, or this solution could be good here. So it's like finding solutions all the time. So now to the disadvantages of a professional organizer. If they're more into organization and more into systems, they might not be as good into decluttering. They might not be as equipped in bringing techniques to the client to deal with their own emotions of letting go of things. Also, because the professional organizer is creating the system, even with information from the client, but still it's the organizer's system, it's possible that the system will not work for the client. You know, the client starts doing it, but then they cannot keep up with it because they didn't train their muscle to keep and maintain the system. So it's possible that after a few weeks or months, the mess is happening again and the professional organizer has to come back. So who do you choose? And the answer is, as often, it depends on your goals. If you don't have the time and want that somebody's doing it all for you, then a professional organizer is definitely the way to go. But if you have the time capacity and also the headspace and you want to learn new skills and new habits, then a KonMari consultant will be a great asset because everything you learn you will have for the future. There is no right or wrong, it depends on your season. I would say the most practical thing is if you find somebody who is doing both approaches, like I do, right? I'm a professional organizer, like I'm a container store ninja, and I like to organize and create systems and make it more productive and efficient. I really enjoy this. However, I'm also a KonMari consultant and I love the emotional side of how to let go of things, to be very respectful to all the things and belonging, the spiritual part of the KonMari method. I think to blend the two things together is the best way to go. And then you have options and can pick and choose what works best for each situation. So who would you choose? Would you choose a professional organizer, or would you choose a certified KonMari consultant, or somebody who's doing both? Let me know in the comments. If this video was helpful for you and you learned something new, then please give it a thumbs up, and I would be very happy if you subscribe to this channel. Feel free to share this video with somebody who can benefit from it. I wish you a great day and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!